Rivaled only by Hossegor in France, Peniche is a European capital of surfing. Famous for its sardines and for hosting the world's best every year at the thumping Super Tubosh. The place is world renowned, but what's it like to actually visit? So the most famous wave in Peniche is Super Tubosh. Obviously it's super heavy beach break. It's not always perfect. You can't expect to go to Peniche and just score super tubes every single day for 2 weeks or however long, because it's just not perfect all the time. It relies on the wind being right, the swell direction being right, the banks being good as well, the tide sitting right, and then obviously it's quite crowded as well because big local pack on it. It's very famous. Quite often when you see clips of guys like getting really sick ones, it's usually on like a stormier day where it's pretty big and unruly, and that clip will be a video of a professional surfer picking off like the one gem that comes through the day, whereas everyone else is just getting smashed or getting closeouts or like not even surfed. But then that said, there are like the standout days as well where it is more pristine and it is way more makeable and more perfect. But yeah, whenever there's waves out there, there's a lot of water moving. It's quite rippy, shifty. There's lots of peaks up and down the beach. Obviously the crowd's really intense. Locals are pretty dominant out there as well, like the bodyboarders and local crew, you know, they're getting their waves and they're making a point of it, that's for sure. Otherwise there are loads of other waves around. You've got Moralesh, which is just at the northern end of Super Tubos, which is a breakwall wedge, and it's pretty bodyboarder dominated, to be honest, so it's not always like the best vibe out there. Like the bodyboarders are pretty aggressive and they definitely get their waves, but it can be a really fun wedgie wave. There can be tubes. You kind of can't really get involved in that main pack of bodyboarders. It's just like one of those places where you just have to sort of let them have it. Then just to the north of that, you've got Baleal, which is like this huge, long, crescent-shaped bay. It kind of bends round like this, and it's a really interesting beach. It's not uncommon for it to be like 4 to 6 foot there in the middle, and then as you go round into these corners at either end, it can be really small depending on the swell direction anyways. It's almost like a beach where you can choose your size. You can tuck yourself into the corner and it'd be waist to shoulder high, or you can go into the middle and it'd be like double, triple overhead. It really just depends on the swell. It just sort of depends what you want. There's usually always a part of it that's clean, or at least semi-clean, because as it bends, there's always going to be a bit of the beach that's a little bit offshore or sort of cross-shore. At the northern end of that, you've then got Legide, which is another pretty consistent beach. Now, all these breaks don't necessarily have waves all the time. It does depend on the swell direction. Usually Baleal, but Legide, if it's south wind, it's a really good option. There's a reef and there's a beach. It's really popular. There's a lot of surf schools that go out there, a lot of coaching that goes on out there. So it does get really hectic, as you can see in this clip. It's just one of them, you have to kind of get amongst the madness. And then if the swell drops off and it goes small, you can head up the west coast, and you've got to do a bit of exploring to find where the right sandbanks are, because obviously it's always different depending on the sand movement. But this stretch of coast here is super exposed, so a lot of the time it's too big and unsurfable. If the wind's like switching and the tide's changing, kind of like Hossegor, you kind of driving around to meet that, and you always feel like you're missing out. So I'll be like having a fun surf at Legide or something, and then like it goes a bit cross shore there, so I'm like, oh no, maybe Supers has now gone a bit offshore, so like bomb it down there, and like constantly chasing my tail. So yeah, it's quite often good to just like pick one place and then just surf that. So this video is brought to you by YeSim. If you're traveling nowadays, having data and staying connected during your trip is pretty much essential, whether you're checking the forecast, booking hotels, looking at maps, you know, all of that stuff, you've got to have good data. Now, YeSim make it really easy to do that with affordable data packages for countries all over the world. It's super quick, super easy to install, and if you use the code DAN15 at checkout, you'll get 15% off your first purchase. So I'll leave that down in the description. For now, let's get back to Peniche. Peniche is super famous. With any like renowned surf town like this, and one that I'm talking about on YouTube, it's obviously going to be crowded. It's just one of those things you have to deal with. Everywhere you surf in Peniche, you'll rock up to, and unless it's like first thing in the morning, there'll be a pack on it. A good day at Supers, there can be like 100 people up across the whole stretch. More or less, there can be like 30, 40 people condensed into that one bit. Baleal can have 100 to 200 people spread across the whole zone. Same at Legide. So it's really, really busy. There's a lot of local people who surf. There's a lot of people going there who are traveling to surf. And it's just one of those places that's like that. It's kind of comparable to Hossegor in that way, you know? But that said, like Hossegor, it's kind of one of those places where it almost doesn't matter too much because the beaches are really, really big and there's just a lot of space and a lot of waves because it's really consistent. It can kind of handle the crowds, which is quite a nice thing to have. I mean, that said, you are going to have like frustrating surfs as well where you're hating it. Generally speaking, if you don't like crowds, you're not really going to be able to escape it in Peniche. So the waves have a lot of power here, so if you're a novice surfer, even like the beginner friendly breaks have definitely got some push to them, and they've definitely got a lot of water moving through them and double ups and waves that will like knock you around a bit. I was quite surprised by that. I always see like surf schools and lessons going on in Peniche and I'm like, oh, it's actually kind of big, where like I'm a little bit nervous and there's like a surf school out there, or there's like this savage like double up inside section and there's people on foamies like just going over the falls. So it's definitely not always this like super friendly zone to surf, even in the beginner zones. So yeah, if you're more beginner or intermediate level, you want to get like a local coach or get some guiding, or just know your limits, assess the lineup before paddling out, because the waves are powerful and it is kind of a serious place. Otherwise you're going to end up in rips and just having a horrible time, you know. If you're after tubes and big waves, then winter is probably the best time to visit. This is when Portugal gets its biggest storms. November, December, January, February, March. A lot of the time it is stormy though, and it's not always perfect conditions. Otherwise, September, October, November, in that autumn sort of period is a really, really good time to visit Peniche and Portugal in general. This is when you start to get those autumnal swells and winter starts to happen, so gets loads and loads of swell. It's not too cold yet, so you've got a good combination of conditions. In spring, winter can kind of like lag on, but you can tap into some really good conditions at that time of year as well. If you're a beginner surfer or you just like easier, more friendly waves, then summer's probably the best time to visit. This is when there's still waves, but generally it's mushier conditions, it's quite hot on land, and it's a lot more sort of user friendly. So that's sort of an overview of the waves you can expect. Obviously, it can be different in different times of year. Like you can get big swells in summer and you can have flat periods in winter. Like I've been in January and it's been really small, but it's not necessarily a bad thing. You've kind of got a few different options. Now, all around the town, there's loads of different accommodation options for different budgets. You've got cheap sort of backpacker hostels, you've got lodges. If you want somewhere where you've got the choice between a dorm room and a private room, check out Peniche Surf Lodge. It's run by my friend's family. So Claire and Duncan there will be able to point you in the right direction for getting waves in Peniche based on your ability, and you'll have somewhere pretty nice to stay right in Peniche. Otherwise, if you're on a super tight budget, there are a few other hostels scattered around town. Personally, I quite like the older town area, so this bit on the map here, I found it to be a little bit quieter, a bit more quaint, and there's quite a few little accommodation options in there. So I'll leave the link in the description of some places that I'd recommend for you to stay. So during our trip, we were actually camping as part of our 3-month European road trip. So we actually just free camped this time in Peniche. So all around this coast here, I don't know if it's technically allowed, but there wasn't really anyone checking, and there's quite a few people doing it. But we just parked up on this cliffside here, and it's really quiet, no one bothered us, and we just free camped there. There's no toilets, no showers or anything like that, so it wasn't glamorous, but we saved a little bit of money doing that for the week. Now, ideally, you need a car in Peniche just so you can go up to that west coast, and if you're staying in town, you can shoot down to Supers, you can go to Baleal. Like anyway, it just gives you that freedom to go between your accommodation, the best restaurants and cafes and spots under the right conditions. If you don't have a car or you can't drive, I'd recommend staying in the Baleal/Ferrol sort of zone. Here you can walk to Legide and Baleal, so you've got two pretty good options there. And you can also like walk up to some of the westerly facing like coastal bit as well. But from there, you won't really be able to get down to supers if you wanted to do that, so it does limit you a little bit. Otherwise, you can stay like in town, and you could walk to the other end of Balliol and then maybe make the longer walk down to Moralesh and down to supers. But if you can get a car, try and get one. You can find pretty good rental deals, especially during winter. If you go on something like Discover Cars, you'll be able to find pretty cheap deals to pick a car up from Lisbon Airport. So Peniche's got really, really nice beaches, and the coastline, especially up along the west coast, is really, really beautiful. Stunning beaches. I really like the coastline around here. The Peniche town itself isn't the nicest place. I do really like up by the fort. It's a lot nicer. It's got a lot more like cobbled streets. It's very quaint. There's some really nice little local coffee shops. So quite often we went to those places for our coffee, just wandered around there, eating pastels. But around like the main bit of town where the port and harbour sort of section is, it's a huge fishing town, Peniche, and there's a lot of fish processing factories around the town as well, so quite often you get this kind of stench of fish, which is not that pleasant. It's only in certain bits of town, and it's only when the wind is in a certain direction. But it's pretty gnarly when you're walking around and you're just like, oh God. But yeah, otherwise, if you get outside of that bit, Balliol Island's really beautiful. All the rocky coastline around the edge of Peniche is really rugged and raw, and it's a really cool place to go and sit up on and just watch all this raw swell hitting the rocks. And yeah, it's just a really nice bit of coast. Things you need, you probably need a step up, just if you're going to give supers a crack when it's a little bit bigger. Otherwise, just your standard shortboard. You don't really need a groveler. Even if it's small, the waves generally have enough power to, you know, carry you on a normal performance shortboard. And then the water never really gets that warm in Peniche. So I'd say a 4.3 basically all year round, you know, when it's a bit hotter on land. But generally, if you're heading there sort of after Christmas time in the depths of winter, you want a pair of boots too. So yeah, this is a bit of a cost breakdown based on a week in Peniche. So that's with some accommodation, that's your food, 1 round of fuel, other bits and bobs that you might spend. You can spend a hell of a lot more as well. But that's sort of a general overview. I think it's a good guide to sort of work around this budget. So yeah, that's Peniche. I hope that gives you a bit of an overview of what is one of the most famous surf towns in the world. It's wave rich, it's super consistent, there's always waves, there's always somewhere to surf. Just expect there to be lots of people surfing. You've just got to get amongst the action, get waves. Pick your times, like anywhere, respect the locals, and whatever you do, don't burn any of the local bodyboarders. For now, it's goodbye from me, and I'll see you in the next episode.